Plato, 360 BCE. In a two-part dialogue called Timaeus and Critias, Plato described the now famous Atlantis as a great island empire that was larger than Libya and Asia Minor combined. He wrote that in the first ages the gods divided the earth amongst themselves in respect to their individual dignities. Each deity was given their own allotment and established temples to honour themselves. These beings can be likened to the later Elohim, which is plural for gods of the biblical text. A priest class was also ordained that instituted a system of ritual sacrifice. Today, this may be the elite hybrid Satanists of the black nobility bloodlines. The god Poseidon was given the sea, and the land which became known as Atlantis. Poseidon was said to have had 10 sons, with one of the primitive human beings. Atlas was the eldest of these sons. He was later condemned to hold the heavens upon his shoulders in Greek mythology. In Atlantis, statues of Poseidon were said to include 6 winged horses, 100 beings riding dolphins, and 10 golden statues of the 10 kings who were his sons and their wives. So what was this all about? Was there a real Atlantis, or was this a mythological story that, if read through the lens of the ancient mystery school teachings, could reveal the nature of reality itself, and thus how to manipulate it? These ancient priests and those initiated into these brotherhoods are said to be taught the systems of reality, and they pass this information on through stories, allegories, and mysteries. And those who show themselves to give their very soul to the secret society will be gradually taught the keys to this system. The study of systems is called cybernetics, and it is this knowledge of human systems that is the key information that gives these occultists the ability to control humanity. The information itself is neutral. The intent of the initiate dictates the outcome. Like a Swiss watch, they know the cogs and the mechanisms that make you tick. Author and researcher of the alchemical tech revolution, Wayne McRoy, joins me today to decode the cybernetic systems of Plato's Atlantis.
Well, I can tell you what it is that they teach exactly in this secret doctrine about Atlantis. Now, what they claim about Atlantis in the secret doctrine is through the various sub-races, these 7 sub-races of Atlantis, which evolved, according to their own terminology, through the course of time, there arose several different sub-races of this Atlantean culture. And the Atlantean culture that were known as the Red Atlanteans existed in what they call the Golden Age. And this is when Atlantis was at its peak technologically and culturally, and they traded all across the world. They had permeated all of the world and had a lot of wealth and influence, had a lot of worldly power, had a lot of good ideals, and it was a golden age that they often allude to in some of the teachings.
So Wayne, would this be connected to the golden age of Saturn and obviously the colour red? Would there be a correlation there? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You're seeing across the board to what I'm alluding to here. So you see how some of these things always allude to the same types of ideas, but they're just taught in different ways. But through the course of this secret doctrine, they teach that the Red Atlanteans, this red race of Atlanteans, they had reddish colored skin according to them, and they were giants. Let's not mince words about that. This is what they teach in the secret doctrine, and we'll go back and we'll talk about the Lemurians, exactly what they say about them too, because this is all very interesting in how this relates to the idea of titans and giants and stuff like that. And of course the Nephilim in the Bible, the biblical description, the fallen angelic beings. So we have all these different connections. So we had this Red Atlantean subrace that eventually what happened is they became just so comfortable, I guess is the best term for it, they had so many creature comforts and they were just so wealthy and well off that they decided they wanted to start pursuing the quest for more power. So they started delving into the dark arts and practicing the dark arts. And then arose one of the later races of the Atlantean subcultures called the Black Atlanteans, because they practiced black magic and they put this into use. And this is what is said to have brought about the destruction of Atlantis as a continent. Okay, well, basically, if you go back, I think one of the best types of narrative descriptions you'll get of how all this came about can be found in the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, written by Max Heindel. It outlines basically what the Rosicrucian belief is in the real history of the world, and this aligns with the other secret teachings of these other organizations and occult groups. Places like the Theosophical Society, the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, the Freemasons, all across the board, they all teach very much a take on this same notion. But I think it's this Rosicrucian outline that gives you the best concept of how it all happened. So according to the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, we have gone through these cyclical epochs in the development, or what they call the evolution of mankind, since the very beginning. Now, the first iteration of man that existed was called the Hyperborean man. And this was eventually through this continuous cycle of development and growth of various sub-races within mankind. They all eventually strike in a time when they are afflicted by a great cataclysm of some sort, where only a remnant remains. So now this is part of the cyclical nature of things. So it said the Hyperboreans, they met some kind of a cataclysmic end, and then the remnant turned into, or transmuted into, evolved into the Lemurian races, which were the predecessors of the Atlantean races. And the same thing happens again and again. So the Lemurian races were said to inhabit what was called the southern continent, and according to what the secret teachings, the secret doctrine tells us about this, is over the course of time, when these repeated cataclysms and these cycles happen, the land masses shift, and where now exists all water and ocean were one times the main land masses, and where land is now were once covered with oceans. So this is what they teach through their secret doctrine, and you can see how some of our more scientific modern ways of thinking can kind of go along with this in certain regards, because you'll notice they find fossils of sea creatures on land and stuff like that. So their explanation for that is the whole notion of what they call Pangea in the geological studies of things. They claim there was one major mega supercontinent at one time and it drifted apart. Well, this is slightly different from what they teach in the secret doctrine. They say that landfalls rise and sink beneath the seas over the course of time through these various cataclysms that happen in these different epochs. So we had, predating the Atlantean epoch, we had this Lemurian epoch, wherein there were sub-races of this iteration of mankind that began to evolve and develop, and they were cataclysmically destroyed because of, allegedly, according to the secret doctrine, volcanic activity that brought about the end of the bulk of the Lemurian race. And the remnant that remained afterwards, after this cataclysm, developed into what are called the Atlantean races, of which there were 7 sub-races, and there's always 7 sub-races in each of these epochs. And this was the rise of the Atlantean epoch. And this is where things really got interesting, and this is where much of what they claim their secret knowledge comes from, is from this culture, this advanced type of mankind that developed in the late stages of the Atlantean epoch. So the late races of Atlantis, which are said to be our predecessors by those in the secret schools, that when this cataclysm of Atlantis happened, the remnant of those that remained spread out and became the seeds of the current iteration of mankind and the current sub-races of mankind. And a lot of this, when you delve deeply into it, you can find just so many connections to things going on in the world today.